Hello, it's me again. How are you doing? Today is Monday, and as such, on Mondays, I am here for a bit where I have a cup of tea, or rather, many cups of tea. I don't really know how many are in this thermos. I think it's probably about uh, two generous cups, and maybe a third if I'm lucky. So while this tea is being consumed, I'll be here for about 2 hours or so, and we can talk about video games, primarily War Thunder. Maybe other stuff if any particular questions of that nature come up. But for the next few hours, I will be here to talk about the game and, well, anything else really. Chiefly, this is geared towards game advice in a sense, as I have played a embarrassing amount of time in this game, and yeah, I know a fair bit about how it works. So if you are looking to maybe get a new vehicle, or want to know how to play something, I can try my best for the next few hours to help you out there. There is not much I can do in terms of telling you any new stuff coming to the game, like new vehicles, new content, and any updates down the line. I can't really do that. Um, you can put those messages in the chat if you like, but I can't really give you an answer that would probably be useful. I guess I can just say maybe, I don't know. But you can if you want. Yeah, so that's pretty much the general intro. I didn't say who I was. I'm Oxy. I have a YouTube and I talk about tanks a lot. Perhaps too much, some may say. I I think in my last video I managed to talk about the M13 for 7.5 minutes, which is embarrassing, frankly. So yeah. Anyway, how is the chat doing today? Hello, chums. Any frog news? No frog news yet. Um, I still don't know what frog it was. I have absolutely no idea on the frog from my past. Uh, that sounds really ominous. The frog from my past, like it had some grandiose effect on my life. Or maybe it did. I mean, think about it. In the grand scheme of things, like that's kind of interesting. That like this one like frog that was hanging out in my garden like 15 years ago is like still relevant today. That frog's probably been like, I mean, deceased for a decade by now, and yet the memory of that frog lives on. I mean, if that frog could sort of gain any particular sentience and sort of, realize its ground of space in the world, it would probably kind of have its mind blown that it's still being brought up all of these years later on a stream about a video game. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting to think about, albeit quite, I guess, irrelevant and perhaps boring. But nevertheless, it's yeah, frog stream, maybe frog stream. I mean, frogs may come up, but well, hopefully incidentally, as I'm meant to be here to talk about the game, but as usual, things often derail somewhere. So, yeah, perhaps there'll be frogs. Why are we talking about frogs? Because once I mentioned frogs, and now frogs are a sort of, they make up probably about 6% of my entire conversations with everyone. There's a constant frogness occurring because of, well, a sort of a frog that appeared in my garden a long time ago. It was bright orange. I still don't know what species of frog that it was. Maybe we'll never know. I've I've tried. Well, people in chat have sent me loads of particular frogs that it could have been, but as yet so far, I haven't been able to find it. I need to actually find text my mum and see if she has the photo somewhere, because then we could sort of really crack on and like go, you know, full 4chan on it. Find this frog, not the actual frog itself, but the species of frog, the genus, as it were. So, what have we got? Salutations, Harry. Hope you are having a nice day. Um, what else do we have here today? Mike, I mean, we don't need Froxy right now because that has connotations I can't deliver on. And I mean, I don't know what I do on that apart from just talk about frogs. I probably could do it because I'm obnoxiously good at talking about absolute nonsense for hours. So it could be a fully blown sort of frog channel. I could do them for every animal, but maybe. Mike, I don't want to. This it's too early. I've been streaming for like less than 10 minutes, and already Frog Boy has occurred. This is not necessary yet. Oh, well, we'll see how it goes. We're in for a long session. Tea with Tommy, are drinking water. Yeah, as you can probably tell, my throat is not the best at sort of longevity, so I'm sort of supplementing my tea drinking with some water right now. I may get more of it later on as well, but we'll see. It's just so otherwise it'll break constantly and then sound horrible. Um, but yeah. Anyway, what do we got? Uh, any tips for playing the BMP1? Well, I think primarily your first port of call is going to be going to aim to unlock the second ATGM. I think it's the Conkers, the second one, the mouse guided one, which is really really good. That's what really makes the vehicle stand out, I guess, and it adds a lot of versatility to the vehicle as well, because the BMP is a vehicle that is really quite versatile in the sense that it has advantages at both close range and long range. A lot of vehicles don't have that duality, which is it was really really good for the BMP. So at long range you have the ATGMs, which are great, the Conkers, the wire guided ones, and at close range you have the main gun. Not that you can't use the main gun at long range, but it's much harder to aim. I don't know the velocity of it at the top of my head, but it's pretty difficult when compared to other vehicles that are around that same BR. So close range, you definitely have the gun. Long range, you definitely have the ATGM. So there is a certain duality to that playstyle, and in that sense, it can really work anywhere. Or rather, there's nowhere on most maps where the BMP just doesn't work. But the one thing I think it's a really good idea to prioritize is staying behind some form of hard cover if you are playing at range, because the BMP does have the advantage of having a very tiny turret. So if you can be in a position where you can just lift just the tiniest bit of your turret over the ridge line or whatever that you're on, that way you can actually basically make yourself an incredibly difficult target to hit and still have full functionality of the ATGMs. The only detriment with doing that, though, is that you can't aim the ATGM below the point of access of your gun. For example, if you're looking down an angle that say has a 30-degree drop of view, you can only guide the ATGM as far as the gun depression of your main cannon allows. So that's a bit of a tricky thing because it means that you can't fire over a hill and then go like back down onto an enemy below, which can be tricky. So you're ideally going to be looking at flat ground to cover. That's probably what I'd go for, especially if you're not quite confident with the map you're on or if you're fighting enemies that have lots of stabilization. Because at 7.3, you are going to start being up-tiered and seeing vehicles that do have a lot of stabilizers. And well, a lot of stabilizers, they will have one stabilizer, but a lot of vehicles that have stabilizers. So if you're caught on the move, you're going to get knocked out quite quickly because the BMP is such a big target and the enemy doesn't really need to aim to disable you. They can basically just point and click. So if you are meeting an enemy head on the move, that's going to be tricky. So if you are at close range, it's going to be ideal for you really to ambush. So try and stay still. Don't really fight aggressively if you're driving along a path where you might be able to actually meet an enemy head on, because in that sense, you're probably going to lose because you can't fire the ATGM on the move. Your enemy are going to be able to hit you first, most likely. So at close range, it's the best to really either stick with your team, play the support, or wait behind cover and engage enemies as they're coming to you effectively, so you're not engaging them from a position where you're on the move. Those two playstyles are really the most dominant for that vehicle. I think that's probably what I'd go for. The long range is probably safest, as you can really keep yourself alive for a very long time, and you can knock out pretty much anything with the ATGM as long as you're avoiding ERA. So yeah, that's probably what I'd go for. Very long answer, I know, so apologies for that. But that's probably what I'd go for the BMP one. I bounced a shot from a German BMP today in my IKV. Yeah, that thing's actually pretty, it can be pretty bouncy in some instances. I mean, the way the sloping on the front plate is from some angles, it can be pretty tricky at least to get through it sometimes. But I mean, it's a rarity. And I mean, for those sort of light vehicles with the heavily sloped armor, they can sometimes bounce some shells, which seems a bit strange. But I mean, it does sort of functionally make sense on that level. So but yeah, it can absolutely be annoying, I can see. How to play the Swedish STR-V81 Centurion? Overall, it's a pretty easy vehicle to play. I don't mean to say that in the sense that you shouldn't be struggling with it. In some situations, it can be a bit of a struggle, but when it's stock, it's going to be quite tricky. As I mean, that thing is very very slow. So in some situations, you're not going to be able to really maneuver effectively in combat situations, and that can be a bit tricky. So the main thing for those Centurions really avoiding is to avoid pushing so far into the map where you can't really guarantee that the bulk of enemies will be in front of you. That's something that's really, really important to guarantee for that vehicle. You can say that for basically every vehicle, but more so for the Centurion because the side armor is very, very weak. And alongside that, the reactive mobility is very, very poor on that vehicle, especially when stock. So when you're trying to maneuver, angle your hull, reverse out of the way, it can take a long time, and there is a period of time there where the enemy can quite easily knock you out if they are at your side. So ideally, you don't want to push too far into the map. That's the main thing to really consider with a vehicle like that. Sticking at range is great, especially when you have the Saber around, as you can fire so quickly. So even if you miss your shell, you can follow up with another one quite quickly. And with the stabilizer and just how powerful the APDS round is, sniping at long range is really viable for that vehicle, especially because the hull down protection is quite good as well. It's not quite as good as it was after the mantlet was redesigned, but it's still really effective, and it's quite hard to one-shot the Centurion as well through the turret because of the spore liner. So a round going in, usually what happens is it will an APHE round, for example, will hit the mantlet, go through, explode on the spore shield, and send fragments in a straight line through the turret. And that means you're only ever going to really lose 2 of the 4 crew members if you're shot into the turret. So that's a really good way to play. It does give you a sort of fail-safe. If you get hit, you get disabled, you can back off and re-engage, and that will give you that sort of safety. You can definitely play at close range and be quite aggressive, though, in the sense that, you don't need to aim a huge amount with the APDS because it does have so much penetration, 473. And with the full stabilizer as well, if you meet an enemy on the move, you can hit them very, very quickly, very, very accurately as well. So yeah, there is a duality with playing it like that. So it does work sort of all over the place. And once you're sort of confident with the gun, the stabilization, what you can push, what you can't push, the tank will do a lot for you. But you can't be too aggressive and go too close into the map behind enemy lines. It does suffer in that sense. But you do absolutely have the duality to play at long range or close range, and that makes it a really, really good vehicle. So I'd probably aim to maybe stick at close range at first, so you can get used to how the vehicle feels, the mobility feels in a sort of safer environment out of the way. And once you sort of have it upgraded, you get the engine, you get the transmission upgrades, then you can sort of push into the map, use the aggression of the stabilizer, and really get the most out of that. That's probably what I would go for. Daniel, how do I kill the IS-1 and IS-2? That would depend entirely on what you're engaging with. Is there any vehicle that you're using and sort of looking to knock those out with? Because they can be tricky with some guns, definitely. Yeah, let me know. I'll try and help there. Yeah, hopefully it helps. Yeah, really good vehicle. Give it a go. Give it a go. Can still pen the sides of a T80. Well, yeah, with pretty much every top tier vehicle. I mean, any vehicle can knock it out from the side with a good hit. I mean, even weaker vehicles like the World War II tanks with APHE, they can quite comfortably get through the side of pretty much any top tier vehicle. So it's not really a metric that I think is that important to look at. As I mean, if you're being shot at from the side in any top tier, you're pretty much dead or at least crippled in that sense. So yeah, they most top tiers can't angle, and they are very, very weak in that particular situation. Who would win, Churchill or KV2? I don't know why, but in my head I pictured Winston Churchill just beating a KV2 to death with his bare hands. I don't know why that's the first thing my mind went to. Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, if the KV2 has the drop, I mean, it's going to land that shot accurately. It's going to knock out anything if it's a good hit, especially with HE now. So, I mean, probably KV2, but if the KV2 makes a mistake, the Churchill's got it, absolutely. I mean, if you're using a fully upgraded crew on the Churchill Mark III, for example, I believe you can fire more than 10 times in the time it takes an uncrewed KV2 to reload. So, in that instance, it's going to be tricky. What else do we have? Top tier, best tier? I would personally disagree with that, but I can't disagree in the sense of saying that you're wrong because I mean that's absolutely down to preference. A lot of people absolutely love top tier, but for me, I'm not really too big a fan on it. I think just because the gameplay of top tier isn't quite what I started playing the game for. I like the variance in the sort of lower tiers, so it's not really my favorite. But I mean, yeah, modern stuff. Yeah, I get that. Like the vehicles themselves can be really really interesting. So on that basis, it can be interesting to sort of play them around them, and modern stuff just feels satisfying. It's much more responsive, much faster, and I mean, there can be a lot of fun in that sense. So I can agree there definitely. You use the Tiger H1. Um, Ideally, you're not going to want to fire at the front plate. You can get through if it's unangled or angled. You can go for the angling on the side, but the bottom sloping part of the front plate is that can bounce even the long 88 at times. So that's a really really tricky spot. What you're probably going to want to do is, if you can, the lower plate is almost always a one shot. Go probably through the middle. The round can sometimes get caught on the sides because there are there are fuel tanks there. So the round can sometimes explode on those, and the fragments won't go all the way through. But if you can go through the middle of the lower front plate, that will usually one shot. Through the turret, aim for the middle of the cheeks, ideally. That way the round can go straight through into the turret, usually one shot as well. If you go too close to the mantlet, there is actually a block of armor that protects where the cheek and the mantlet meet. That can disrupt a lot of rounds, especially with volumetric now, so that's something to avoid as well. So in the middle of the cheeks is pretty much ideal. Or the cupola as well. The cupola can be a really, really good shot, but you do need to be a bit more comfortable in your aim in that respect. But it can work as well. The tricky part there is that with the IS-2 Mod 44, there is an extra plate of armor on the mantlet behind the cheeks. So that can catch a lot of rounds. You will need to be quite careful with your shot on the cheek there. But for the Mod 44, you can probably identify that with the 50 cal on the roof. There's a 50 cal on behind the cupola, and the front plate is redesigned as well. So you can go through the cupola on those vehicles and basically negate most of the armor on that thing. So that can definitely work. I would probably try and avoid the front plate though, if you can. You can get through it, but it's not really very reliable, especially if you are struggling a little bit. So I'd probably go with that. Let's see what else we've got. There was a comment I wanted to answer, but it's long gone now. Many a scroll. Hello from Russia. Hello from not Russia. Hello from Germany, rather. Hope you're having a nice day. What are your thoughts on World War One tanks and small maps? It wouldn't really work in the sense. I mean, it sounds interesting, and I think Battlefield One probably gave people a sort of a dishonest view of how World War One tank combat would work. In that, if you're going off pure armor values, there are some tanks that just would not be able to even touch each other. So it wouldn't. It's more interesting in theory, but not so much in practice. If you really are looking for a proper, like, realistic experience, you're using the armor values, penetration values, and that kind of thing. So it's not quite as it won't really be as workable as it seems in that sense. And I think if you are looking for World War One tank combat, you're probably better off looking for it enlisted instead. As I don't know if it will come to enlisted, there's pretty much no idea on that front. But I think if it is to appear in one of the games, it's way more likely to appear in enlisted, I would say, because at least then, I mean, there are ways that the tanks can combat the infantry, and there's more kind of dynamics in combat there. So they only really work the best as against infantry. So I think it's probably more likely to expect it on that game instead. I will now take a break to breathe because as I mentioned before, I breathe entirely manually. I can't breathe automatically, which is really annoying, which means I will talk for like a minute, forget I need to breathe, and then be out of breath for like 2 minutes. So bear with me a second. I'll have my tea. Here's my tea. Someone asked, actually. It's here. I'm full of oxygen and other things, presumably. Why is the marketplace not available for Xbox players and, well, by extension, console players? It's nothing to do with us, I'm afraid. It's strictly down to the policies on their respective platforms of Sony and Microsoft. They don't allow for those sort of internal subsidiaries of like marketplaces. It's not up to us at all. Like if it was, we would have them on the consoles and day one effectively. But it's not up to us. Sadly, we have no sort of jurisdiction on it. It's all down to Sony and Microsoft, what they can do with their policies. So as much as we'd love to have it on the consoles, and for you guys to be able to actually use it, it's not possible from their perspective. So unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do, which is a shame. But Christ, rubbish at breathing. CW21 or Key 43.2? Do you mean Key 43.3 if we're talking about China? Because they don't have the 2, they have the 3. CW21 is an incredibly powerful aircraft. You can use that thing up to like 5.0 and still get results with it. It's like, if you know the fundamentals of flying props, it's difficult to die while you're flying it. It's just that effective. I would definitely go for that. But the Key 43.3 has incredible flight performance for a 2.0 vehicle. The guns aren't that great. It's very, very fragile, but it's incredibly maneuverable and very fun and responsive to fly. Like, it feels satisfying to use it. So I think both of them have usability, but the CW21 by far is an absolutely phenomenal vehicle. And I think, you'll probably have a good time playing that. Very forgiving as well for a beginner vehicle. Absolutely, yeah. Let's see. If the A10 ever comes out, which battle racing would you give it? I don't know. I think it would depend on what it was equipped with. I think that would depend a lot. In a sort of conventional sort of air-to-air situation, it's going to be not very good at all against other aircraft. So it will sort of, that will play into it a little bit. But I'm not sure. I think it would depend entirely on what ordnance will be given to it. So I probably couldn't give an accurate guess there, I'm afraid. Lag 3.8 still works as well at 5. Well, as long as you can sort of use a sort of a vehicle effectively, and you know how it works, you can use a lot of props in high-tier prop games. It's it's not going to be easy to consistently do well, but you absolutely can. And that can be quite fun. I remember back in the day, me and some friends would always play the BF109 E4, but in about like 5.0, 5.7 games, and still come out with like ace games like sometimes. So there are some props at the lower tiers that can absolutely work in the higher tiers, and they can be pretty fun. What is the best way to penetrate a KV-1 frontally? I can't seem to pen it with British tank. It depends really what British tank you mean there. I would probably guess the 57 or the 75. 75 will struggle a bit with the KV-1. Both will actually, really, yeah. It's a tricky one. Frontally, completely front on, lower plate, upper front plate works decently well. For anything else, you're going to want to go for the corners of the turret. They're the flattest part. You can get around in there. They usually will shrapnel into the turret, disable the turret drive, and a couple of crew members. That's probably what I would go for. But it is a struggle, especially if the KV's on the move. It's angled. It's a really tricky hit. I wouldn't go for the breach unless you're fighting the KV-1E, because the breach on those variants, and the ZIS-5 as well, is flat. If it's the regular KV-1, don't go for the breach. Corners of the turret, the cheeks of the turret as well, or the upper front plate if it's completely front on. That's probably what I'd go for. Let's see. What does that mean? Oxy, can I get a... I don't know what that noise is. That's an ominous noise. I don't think I will make this. Maybe later. Depends how much tea I have. Why are the Swedish repair costs so high? Which ones? I know. I think some of the higher tier ones have a quite high repair cost, but as far as I understand, they are some of the best performing vehicles in the game altogether. So, I mean, as far as I understand, that's pretty much why it's like that. But, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not out here making anime noises. That ain't me, Chief. I'm not about that kind of life. A tornado jet just passed over my house. Pretty cool. I've never seen one in person. even sort of grounded, which is a shame because they are very pretty. Yeah, nice, very cool. Um, Return the mouse. Usually the mouse comes back for War Thunder's birthday every year, so it will come back at some point, but probably just not for a while. Um, I can't even read what that says. Oh, it's in another language. That was why. My brain just broke. I was trying to read that in English for about 5 seconds until I realized it actually wasn't English. Amazing. Who's older, Tom or War Thunder? Um, Me, I believe. I think. Well, I would have to be what 10, 11, if that was the case. So yeah, bit older than that, thankfully. Just about. Is there any plan against Spawn Raider? Um, I assume you mean spawn camping. It's an issue that's almost impossible to counter effectively, as well as probably you don't want to hear me say that, but it's pretty much the case, especially for a game like War Thunder. There's no easy way to really make the spawn protection in that sense fair to everyone. Uh, in the sense that, I mean, if someone's shooting at you in the spawn, there's a sort of 2 point to that. In that, maybe your team is entirely lost, and at that point, spawning is not really a great idea anyway. And I mean, you should really know that you're going to die when you spawn in. Or someone is, at the edge of the map shooting into the spawn, and that's the sort of thing that should, I think, be countered, and it effectively is, with the radar on the minimap. One thing I know the team wanted to do a while ago was make it so that if an enemy shot a tank into the spawn, they would be pinged on the map, but it just isn't possible to do in the way that the game is coded right now, apparently. So that is something that they did think about, but it's just sadly not possible. It's just, yeah, it's an issue that can't really be countered effectively. There are instances where I think spawning is going to lead to you dying anyway, and identifying those situations will probably lead you to be sort of getting less annoyed by it overall, I think. If I'm sort of one of the last people alive in the match and I can see the enemy all around the spawn, I won't spawn in. Or if I will spawn in, it will be in a vehicle I know can like get 3 or 4 kills before I die. So yeah, those situations are tricky. But there's no way to really make it so spawns is kind of one thing I sort of see a lot is that people like to suggest that spawn should be completely behind like a defilade or like behind a massive wall or like a building or something. That works in the sense that you can spawn in and not be shot at, but the sort of difficult duality with that is that means SPA can just sort of sit in there, tanks can hide behind this wall and never be shot at, and as well, it's not really fair on the people spawning, because if an enemy is watching this like this wall that you're going to spawn behind in complete cover, they will get the first shot on you every single time. So sure, you spawn in complete cover, but there's no way to escape it. So that would actually be worse, I think. I see that suggested a lot, and I don't really think it's really a solution. It's not really something that would work, I think. But yeah, there's a lot of issues with it. Maybe it could be better down the line, but I think it's a very tricky issue to sort of improve. Morning, NBR. Hope you're having a nice, morning, I suppose. When are you removing the full stops from the War Thunder YouTube channel name? No idea. It's not my sort of position to do that. You'll have to ask someone else, I suppose. When will the IS-6 come back in game? Because it says coming soon. I think it's available right now, or at least it should be. I think that's an issue sometimes with consoles. They have the little coming soon thing. Yeah, it might be an issue. I'm not sure. I haven't really heard about that. Can we expect new British planes such as V-bombers? Probably not for a while. The game I don't think is in a state right now where it can accommodate um, sort of V bombers and large bombers like that fairly, in a sense where they'll actually have a use and not be obliterated instantly. I don't think the game can really. Well, I just don't think it's really the right time to have those vehicles in the game. Maybe they'll come in eventually. I'm not sure, but I think it would probably be a fairly long time before we see something like that, which is a shame because they are gorgeous aircraft and that'd be really nice. Um, yeah, I'd like to see them, but I don't think it's really going to be soon. I guess. What does this say? If a woman seen you lick an ice cream and she came over and said, "Can I lick your ice cream?" What would you say? I would no. I'm not going to be sharing ice cream with a random person. I mean, I wouldn't even do that with a friend. Probably want to lick my no. Terrible. I don't even think that's a situation that ever happens in real life. But absolutely not. She would not be able to come anywhere near my ice cream. That's not what I'm about here. I haven't had I haven't had an ice cream like a conventional one in probably about 5 years. So it will be an event for me. And if I was accosted, um, enjoying my ice cream by some don't know woman, that would be a disaster. I will not be a fan of that. So no ice creams will be accosted by random women in my lifetime, presumably, unless it was really funny. Okay, conventional ice cream. Yeah, I mean conventional ice cream in the sense that it's sort of in a little cone and you sort of, you know, have it like that. Man, what an anecdote. Anyway, which British plane would you love to see next? Mm, 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 mm. Not sure. I like kind of strange stuff. I'd probably like the Vickers Wellesley. I like because it's a vehicle that would be. It's a vehicle that's would not have a lot of use in the game, but it's really interesting. I love its construction. It's actually made in the same way the Wellingtons are made, and my great uncle Ted helped make them. He helped manufacture the and design the interior construction on Wellingtons. That sort of a mesh crisscross design. So I'd like to see that. I'd also like to see the SRA one, that flying jet boat with the 20 mils. That would be really cool. I'd probably like those. Um, Need to add the one with the tail gunner. Yeah, yeah, that'd be really nice. Very interesting aircraft. Very cool. Um, do I like long grain rice or short sticky rice? I don't know what your favorite is. I don't know anything about you, I'm afraid. So I can't let you know what your favorite type of rice is. I wish I could. Obviously I'm always here to help, but that is not something I think I'm able to answer at this point, I'm afraid. I hope you figure it out though. Absolutely. Um, do you know Italian? I know of it. Um, I mean you. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have rice that much. It's just sort of when it's there and I need to have some calories, it's like, go on then, have a bit of rice. Um, I don't really know the difference. I mean, if is this just body shaming rice? Is this what's happening now? Because I don't know the difference between the long rice and the fat rice. I mean, I know there's sort of a duality to them, like sushi has the kind of fat rice. I don't know if they taste different. I assume they're the same. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not really a huge kind of into the kind of technicalities of rice in general. I just sort of eat it if it's there sometimes, and it can be nice. I like the rice with the sort of the little multicolored bits in. That's quite fun. Do you eat in bad or on table? Okay. Um, Lewis Wright says, I like pie. Thank you for that, Lewis. Very nice. Are you talking 34 min? Yes. I'll be talking for 34 min more, and then more after that. Probably 3 more sets of 34 min. So absolutely have that to look forward to. Is there another event coming that you can get the Katusha? Probably not. As it's on the marketplace now, marketplace vehicles rarely, like very, very rarely, come back as earnable outside of the market. So probably not. And if so, it'll probably be a very, very rare sort of scarce way to unlock it, I would say. I wouldn't say it's likely though. As it's on the marketplace, it's more likely just to stay there, I'm afraid, which is a bit of a shame, I know. But yeah, that's probably what I'd guess. What up, my guy? What up to you too? More Tomcat. Hope you're having a nice time. What dose War Thunder and Rice? Am I awake now? Sometimes I think my brain just forgets how to read. I don't know if I read that wrong, or if that was actually what the message said. Maybe I just can't read. That could be true as well. What is your favorite vehicle in War Thunder? Tricky. I don't know, because I don't really play vehicles in the game just to play them if I really like them. Like I don't really like playing easy stuff, which I guess would be a vehicle I really really like. I pretty much just play stuff to spade it or get camos and unlock more things. So I'm not really sure what I'd go with on that front. I think in terms of like visuals, I really like the Tempest Mark V is what I usually go for. It's just gorgeous plane, really powerful, really versatile, absolutely brilliant. I'd probably go with that one. I'd say. What do you do for fun in War Thunder? I like to spade stuff, get camos, complete things. That's pretty much what I do. So I always have like a little goal to work towards, and I can keep unlocking stuff and that kind of thing. And that's ultimately what I enjoy the most, I think, in the game. It's a really good way to play because it means you're constantly achieving something, and that way you're never going days without getting your next top tier. So that can be a bit sort of daunting, I think, sometimes. So yeah, I play in a way that means I can constantly be achieving stuff, and it's a much better feedback loop, I think. So that's sort of where I have the most fun, I think. What tech tree do you like the most? Probably the USA. Regarding their ground tree, especially, just because it's very very versatile. There's loads of vehicles there that sort of do lots of different jobs. You can make lineups where like every vehicle will play completely different, and I really really like that. Gives you a lot of versatility in the game. You can approach maps in better ways. It's really good tree. I think the one thing they probably need is a vehicle at around 5.7 that can deal with heavies and up tiers, because right now they don't really have a huge amount of vehicles that can sort of confidently take out the KTH, Jag Tiger, Jag Panther, like those kind of vehicles frontally. They can with the APCR on the 90 and that kind of thing, but it's tricky. I'd like to see them get a sort of heavy tank, well not a heavy tank, but a sort of a high caliber like artillery piece maybe, like oh what's the one? I've got a 155 I think in a really good platform. That could be something to have there. Yeah, I think they probably need that, but overall that's probably my favorite tree. Really really good. Battlefield 2042 will end War Thunder. I really don't think that's even close to being the case. That's a funny message though. Do you think that PC only premiums will eventually come to console? I don't know. That's completely at the behest of the shop team and whatever's in the I guess contracts with the consoles. I believe in the contracts they are sort of obliged their own set of exclusives, as from what I understand. I don't know if that's the case. I assume that's the case. yeah. I don't know. Maybe they do sort of interchange a bit, so they could potentially be able to have some kind of pairing there. I'm not sure. Maybe it's certainly possible. Um, Thought on the new Marder one. I haven't really played it, but I think it's sort of the quintessential support tank, I guess, in the sense that it's the Milan's great. The main gun is okay at close range, but there are vehicles that it can't even scratch. So it's very very sort of in the sort of quintessential support sense. I mean, it's not quite uh, a light tank. I like to sort of differentiate light tanks and support tanks. So, for example, something like the Object 906 and the BMP will be light tanks, and the Marder will be a support tank. Because it can't really play aggressively because you can rush around a corner and meet an enemy that you can't touch, which is not really very good for a vehicle that needs to rely on its mobility in that sense. So I think it's an alternative to the BMP. I don't necessarily think it's better, but it can be a sort of pseudo anti-air and work in that sense. So yeah, I don't think it's incredibly user friendly and really really easy to use, but it does seem quite fun. I need to give it a bit more of a try. I've played it a little bit, done decently well, especially against aircraft. The gun is really really good against aircraft. But yeah, it'd probably take a while to get a better opinion. But I think it's sort of much more of a support vehicle right now. And time for a breathing break. Let's go. Very nice. What does it say on my top, by the way? I actually know what this says. I'm holding the wrong sleeve up. What does that say? I don't know what that is. Um, I don't really know what this shirt's meant to be. It's got a cow on the back and it says like green pastures or something. I don't know what it is. It's just got like a sort of field on the front. Um, but yeah, interesting, curious. Oxy and cosplay would be the wild ultimate fam boy. I'm not sure what this means, but an interesting comment all the same. Uh, Curious. Soup Nario cat case. Yeah, it looks a bit like that. Weirdly enough, though, when I saw the design on the front, I thought of a early Mario 64 level. I don't know why, but that's really weird because I saw the design before I saw the like the text on it, which is a very very strange. Curious. Should I skip the T10M? In the right situation, the T10M can be really really powerful. It's nowhere near as good as it was. The armor's not really that usable, and the reload holds it back, but it can still work decently well. I mean, you've got a full stabilizer. You're strong against a lot of the weaker guns, and the one-shot potential of that APHE round is really, really, really good. And it's stock as well, so as soon as you unlock it, you can basically use the best round from the offset. So I think it's probably, I'd say it's still worth getting. It doesn't have much longevity. The other vehicles at 8.3 have way more usability. T62, T55, BMP2. So yeah, like the IT1 as well. It's probably the least versatile out of all of them. Um, but it's still yeah, it's still good. I'd still play it, but I can appreciate it's not as good as it was back in the day. Maybe give it a go though. Like if you have the time, yeah, it can be a fun vehicle to take out. Absolutely. Um, Hot tub stream when I mean when fun does a hot tub. Let's go. I mean, don't do that, but that's when it'll happen. Um, Oxy, should I get IS-1 or Tiger E? I mean, get both. I mean, as they're in different trees and they're both very usable vehicles, they're both worth getting. Absolutely, it just depends on what nation you want to play the most, I guess. I can't really answer that. I think. Um, Chat, let's not go in this particular direction. There's going to be no bikinis worn today, or in fact the next stream either. Yep. What other War Thunder related questions do we have? Put the camera on the ground and oh, come on now. Frog hat, please. Maybe. I could buy it right now on Amazon. I could do it. But I don't know. See, if I knew how to do the stream like polls, like the Twitch point goals thing, I could probably do that. Maybe Mike can do it remotely, and we could set one really high. And if it actually happens, I will buy the frog hat on Amazon right now, and I will wear it. We will see. If you were to sell your War Thunder account, how much would you sell it for? I don't know. I mean, I think technically I have one of the most valuable War Thunder accounts in existence. I have every attainable vehicle in the game and my own unique vehicle. I have a Challenger 2 that no one else in the world has, just me, which is quite cool. So I guess it would probably be a lot, but I don't know. I'm really not sure. Hi there, love. Hello, Wobbly Rick. I hope you're having I was going to say wobbly day, but that doesn't sound very positive. Hope you're having a nice day. Which Challenger 2? The first one. Oxy, when will they add Poland tech tree? I'm not sure. I don't know if they will. Maybe. They've got some interesting vehicles. Story behind that Challenger. My team won the YouTube Cup, and as we won, we all got to choose a unique vehicle to have, and just for us, which was quite cool. It's got its own camo. You can probably find pictures of it. I don't think it exists on the War Thunder wiki page, but you can probably find a picture of it somewhere. But that's my one. Is the Russian Air worth it? Yeah, definitely think so. Russian Air has a lot of good vehicles here and there. It's difficult to kind of answer that question, I think, because it depends what you sort of want out of it, and where you really want to kind of play ultimately, I guess. But I think overall, it's yeah, there's a lot of strong vehicles here and there. They're quite niche in that they do have a lot of distinct disadvantages. The guns are quite weak some of the time, but there's a lot of really good aircraft here and there. Really good aircraft. Obviously, play Sim sometimes, not for a while. I haven't really had the time, annoyingly, but yeah, I used to play Sim a lot. Really, really good game mode with friends, especially if you're playing with friends who can really kind of get how it works and like know where to go on the maps. I mean, it can be really, really nice to play with a friend. So yeah, Sim's fun. Sim's definitely fun. Well worth going for. Oxy, when will you use Big Chungus outfit? I mean, send it to the PO box. Except don't, because we don't have one. What a time to be alive. Not even halfway through the first cup of cha. Terrible. Are there any US premiums you'd recommend? Well, I think there's always there's an annoying kind of there's an annoying there's an annoying sort of duality to this, in that some of the best premiums don't necessarily have the best longevity. The T29, probably one of the actually I'd say that the T29 and the Cobra King are probably in the top 10 premiums in the game, like tier for tier relative to their potential. But they don't have the most longevity. So they are really, really, really good, but you won't be able to research rank 6 with them, which will be probably the most, like the longest, I guess, section of the progression you'll have to go through. So those two vehicles are really, really powerful. But at the same time, if you just want the best value for money, the XM1 is objectively the best as a product, but not the best as a vehicle. So you need to kind of consider whether you want a good, fun vehicle to play to get through the early tiers, or if you want to get the most out of your money. Um, if it's the former, I would go for the Cobra King or the T29. If not, get the XM1 on a sale, and that will be the best use of your money. Use that, get some talismans, and go through there. If not, T29 is fantastic. Maybe talisman at tier 5 once you get into tier 5, because that way you can progress through the tree a bit better. That's ultimately what I go for if I were you. I think you would look great if you let your hair grow down to your mid pack and curl it. I mean, it can grow that long. It does sort of curl quite a lot. When my hair gets quite long, it does sort of. I can't really describe it. It's sort of like this, but it sticks up a lot more because my hair is very, very thick. So if I do this, for example, it will just sort of stay in that shape. So if it's long, it kind of, I don't know, sort of, yeah, it curls upwards a bit, which can be quite annoying. I'll stick with this length for now because it's, don't know, less bullyable, I suppose. Although now in doing that, I now look like I'm straight out of a 2005 music video. I look like someone from the Hair Blair bunch. I just made that up. No, I didn't. They don't exist, but it was a quote from Peep Show. Unless the Hair Blair bunch are a real thing. Maybe. Someone look it up. Do you think bigger than 5,000 kilogram bombs will come to War Thunder aside from the nukes? Maybe at some point, but I don't know. I'm not really sure. It would depend on how they're implemented. Potentially, I don't think it's an impossibility. How do you feel about your? Oh, excuse me. How do you feel about the M26 at 6.3? While there are lower tiered Panthers that are better in several ways. I mean, looking at it like that, there are vehicles like way below 6.3 that are better than the Pershing in certain ways. The Pershing is an incredible vehicle, and I think it might sound a bit mean, but the Pershing's a really good gatekeeping vehicle because I think the Pershing is a vehicle that if you know the maps really well, you're confident with the game, the Pershing can work incredibly well. Incredibly well. I think the Pershing's fine where it is. The armor on that thing is actually pretty good for a medium tank. Mobility not that great, but it's very responsive, got an incredible gun. Mantlet armor's good. Huge one-shot potential. And it's much more versatile in being able to sort of use itself around the map. In the ways that the Panther just can't. I mean, the Panther is incredibly weak outside of its comfort zone. Side armor is very, very weak. Gun's good, but damage is not that great. It just can't do as much. And I think the Pershing is a way more usable platform overall. It's really, really good. I think it's fine at 6.3. I mean, the Panther definitely has advantages over it, but so does the Pershing. And I'd much prefer the Pershing, I think. Or depending, though, if it was in a really specific situation, probably maybe the Panther, but I really like the Pershing. It has a lot of potential, but it just needs to be treated a bit, I guess, sensibly. Do you have your own Oxy Discord? Yep. I won't link it here because that's not really cool. But if you go to one of my videos on YouTube, I guess, I think the link's there in the description, so you can find it there if you want. We are not Mama's Kumquat. That was nice. That was a nice moment. Is the Soma? It's not Soma. It's Somoir, isn't it? Or like because I always see Soma and I think of that video game, which is actually really good. Soma is a great game. Yes, I think so. It's great in up tiers. Very, very strong vehicle. Like the Centurion, it's not very good outside of its comfort zone if it pushes too far into the map. Reverse speed is bad, side armor's bad. But if you can get that thing into a good spot, there is a huge amount of potential you can get out of it. Works in up tiers, versatile, really good premium. I recommend it. But it does need to be played a bit more carefully, I think, than most. Do a My Little Pony cosplay and neigh like a horse. It's a strange world we live in. Sometimes I don't really believe it's happening. Sometimes it is, but other times not. What a strange thing to read. I don't know why I said that in a very posh way as well. Strange. Um, is there any possibility of the Defiant coming to War Thunder? Tricky because it's a vehicle that would be really fun to have in the game. I'd love to see it because you'd have to approach gameplay in a unique way. Because, I mean, no forward-facing guns, quad on the back. You need to play that thing very strangely, which is an absolutely fantastic game sort of facet in that it makes you approach the game differently. And I love vehicles in this game that make you do that. But at the same time, it would probably be 1.0, and if it was in the tree, people would probably either never play it or play it once and never touch it. And because vehicles in this game cost a lot of money in general to make, it's probably like the money that's spent on models can probably be better spent on vehicles that more people want to play. So I can understand why it's not in the game. I'd love to see it, but I don't know if it's actually likely. Maybe as a low tier premium or event vehicle, that would be really, really nice. But I'm not sure right now, personally. Hey, mate, how is you? :3. I'm doing pretty good. I hope you're doing good too. It's a nice sort of chill Monday today. How much do they cost? I can't remember. I think on the wiki, it tells you roughly, and I think because if you know 3D modeling, and you can model a vehicle for the game, you can be paid, I think, up to like 8 to like 12,000 euros or dollars, I think, for the model. So yeah, it's a lot of money to actually make one of those things. I believe that you can find more sort of precise details on the wiki for it, but it's around that, I think. And for perspective, bomber cockpits take about twice as much time, or maybe it depends, almost twice as much time to make as a vehicle itself. So I see that come up a lot, and that's why, you don't see many bomber cockpits. And I mean, it would be lovely to see it, but at the same time, you need to offset the time and effort required into using them. Like, for example, the HE-111, I think the cockpit design of that plane is brilliant. It's really interesting. I love the look of it. But there's not really much use spending, let's say hypothetically, $16,000, $18,000 on making that cockpit when less than like 0.1% of the player base will ever spend more than 10 seconds looking at it. And you can much better, you can use that time to, use that money to put into tanks and other vehicles that everyone can play and get the most out of constantly. Because modeling a cockpit, only a few players will ever look at it constantly. You play sim, and the players, playing it in RB will probably cycle through the views and look at it for a few seconds and not really play it. It would be the same as if the interior of tanks were modeled when you look into the driver view. It wouldn't really be worth the money because barely anyone would really be looking at them, and you can use that time and that money to make more vehicle models that can be appreciated on the surface level all the time. So yeah, it's tricky. It's a tricky one. But yeah, I think bomber cockpits contain, in some instances, more polygons than entire aircraft models. So yeah, tricky. It's a tricky one. But I think there have been some user-made cockpits, though. I think the Beaufighter Mark 21, the Australian one, was user-made, and that's really nice. So yeah, they definitely are added sometimes, and they can be if you're into modeling, give it a go. Can definitely be usable. Can you write my name on your chest? Yes. Probably won't though. Hey Tom, I don't know if it was already mentioned, but congrats for being a part of E3. Yeah, it was fun to be on E3. Not that I was there physically, but I was there talking about Enlisted for a bit, so that was quite fun. The actor that plays Abby from The Last of Us said my name. That was quite sweet. Yeah, it'd be interesting. hopefully do a bit more of those as well, which could be quite fun. Yeah, thanks. It was fun to be on E3. Um, have there been any frog talks yet? Yeah, we had a sort of brief um, frog discussion. Perhaps we'll have a bigger one as well later on. Always the way. Duality of frog. How are you going to play Battlefield 2042 if you have bad internet at your house? I probably won't play it. I don't really like, from what I understand it, it sort of looks like it's going in the more sort of hero shooter direction in that your operators have like different skill sets. I really don't like that. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing at all. I think a lot of people really, really like that. I mean, Overwatch certainly, trailblazed that kind of genre, but it's not really for me. And I think if that's the direction they're going to go in, I don't think I'll probably play that much of it. I like the sort of games where you're kind of like a nobody, you're just kind of like a grunt shooting stuff. I mean, it adds to the kind of feeling of being in a kind of war in that sense. And it's not something for me. I don't really like it, but I can appreciate that other people will. So I'm not trying to be here and say like I think it's objectively a bad choice for the series to make, but it's just something I don't really enjoy. I think it's not for me. I like in war games where you're kind of running around. You're nobody. You have your little hero moment, but then you're dead and you're a new person, and then that's it. And yeah, just sort of giving personalities that repeat in those games, I don't really like. I'm not really a fan of that, I think. Yeah, it's just not my cup of tea at the moment. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, Panzer, that's a really good point. Exactly that. If you're a grunt, you can make up your own story in your head, and exactly, it's like you have this brief moment. Like I love in games like Enlisted as well, where you survive as like the lone person in your squad for like the whole match. I've had that a couple of times. My squad's been wiped out, but there's one of me left, and you survive the whole match, and it's like you've had like your hero moment, and because there's no personality attached to that, you kind of can just put anything you want onto that character, and that's a really really I think strong feedback loop, like an emotional hook for a shooter game, and I like that for that. So yeah, it's disappointing that I guess it's in that direction for me, but I can appreciate other people like it. It's a preference thing, I think. Do you play Call of Duty Warzone? I've never played it. I played the standard multiplayer because I like it, just for kind of reaction times and stuff, like practicing that kind of thing. So I play it a bit, not too much. But yeah, sometimes a little bit. Why is there a bomb site on the Yak 28 when it's totally inaccurate? I believe it takes into account the inertia of your movement. So if you're traveling very, very quick, the bombs will overshoot. It's been that way for every vehicle in the game for like as far as long as the game's been going. Yeah, if you're going very quickly, the bombs will go off. So it's a bit tricky in that sense. Maybe we can look at some instances, well, not instances, but some improvements to the reticule in general, like maybe a new kind of interface for it. But I believe that's the case. I mean, I've always noticed that with everything, really. Yeah, I believe that's why. This mug is bright yellow, but the green screen filter is not exactly very appropriate. So yeah, bright yellow. Maybe if I can shield the color with my like in the reflection a bit, you can kind of see it a bit more. But yeah, it's yellow. Jaden, what is the best starting nation? I always go China. That usually upsets some people, but China I think is the best because it contains a lot of vehicles present in other trees. So on that basis, you will get the like a light experience of like 3 or 4 other nations by playing China, which means that if you can play through the early tiers and you can identify a vehicle you really like, you love it, you love the playstyle, then you can migrate to that tree that has more vehicles with the same playstyle. So I think China is really, really good for that as a starter nation because it sort of drip feeds you experiences from the other trees in a way that means you don't need to dedicate a lot of time to going through all of them. So I would personally definitely recommend China as a starting nation. And then once you've played up to like say tier 3, 4, or probably tier 3, you can then migrate to another tree if you can identify a vehicle you really like, and that's probably what I would go with. Because as good as China is for the variety, it doesn't really commit to one sole play style. It's quite varied and changes a bit. So I think you'd probably be better off, yeah, playing China and then sort of adjusting later on to one of the more sort of fleshed out trees. Um, why does the game punish us with crew lock? You yourself said that it sometimes is better to not respawn. Yeah, I mean, if it's in the time of the match where respawning is a bad option, it's probably, too far in the game to be kind of penalized for being crew locked. But I think literally the way of countering crew lock is to just play everything in the game. Like, if I'm playing a match and I leave and I get crew locked, I will just play another nation and play another lineup and that kind of thing. And I think a lot of the sort of idiosyncratic problems in this game can be countered by playing every nation, because if you're playing, say, a tank destroyer and you get a really close range map and you just don't want to play it and you leave the match like without even spawning, sure, you'll be crew locked, but you can just go and play another nation. I mean, that's always what I've done, and I think that's a really good way to approach the game. It's way more usable in that sense. I can appreciate that crew lock is very annoying, but in some instances it does need to exist. I think it can probably be streamlined, and there's probably ways to improve it. But I think really that's the main way to sort of account for the tedium that comes involved with it. Why don't you respond to the YouTube questions? I think I've actually responded to more YouTube questions than Twitch questions today. So yeah, I'll go between the two of them. I've got Twitch above YouTube, sort of flip between the two. I just sort of pick the ones that are most interesting, or the ones that I can sort of respond to the best. So it depends. How do I best play bombers? Entirely depends on the bombers. Bombers are hugely different in sort of, heavy bombers, light bombers, frontline bombers. I can't really give you a sort of rounded answer to that. I think it will depend entirely on the vehicle itself. Some you need to be very passive, flank around the map. Some you need to be low, some you need to be high. It really depends. If you have a particular bomber you'd like to maybe know a bit more about, I can try and help with that if it's more specific. But I can't really give you anything general, I think. Like, I can't really give a grey answer for bombers in general, I think. Twitch questions also don't exist because it's all Frog Boy. To some extent, yeah. I'm having a German moment of people just saying, put on the cat ears, coward. So, yeah. Maybe a YouTube moment will occur, and I will look below for a bit. Is the MiG-23 worth it? Not right now, I think. It's a vehicle that, in its absolute prime, can be quite good. But the environments in which War Thunder take place, in terms of where dogfights and engagements will actually be, that thing does not work very well at all. It is not really able in War Thunder to operate within its element, and I think even though it's very fast, it's a shiny new vehicle, it's not really very usable right now, and I don't think it's sort of something that's worth prioritizing. Very slow stock grind. Even when spaded, Phantoms, MiG-21 Bizzes can still do a lot more than it. So yeah, I don't think it's really worth it right now. Probably wait down the line for some changes to come into play. I don't really know what I mean by that. Maybe something will change, but I think right now it's probably not the best vehicle to go for, in my opinion. How to bomb accurately and realistic? Yeah, practice. Someone else has already said. Practicing is really the way to go. It takes a lot of time. What you can do is go into a custom battle, put bots on the ground, and just practice with them. Take out your bombs. Just repeat. Drop your bombs, J out, repeat, repeat, repeat. Do it maybe if you're warming up, like for 10, 15 minutes before you play the game. conventionally. And in that way, there's no pressure. You're not really in a stressful situation at all. And that's a good way to warm up because it's stress free, good practice, and yeah, that's really what you got to do: practice, practice, practice. Go into custom battles, go through there. I'd say. Given Germany got the 2A6, Russia got the BVM, would you personally predict a new American tank to rival both of those? Probably down the line, yeah. I think it's sort of on the horizon now, Abigail. There's a lot of particulars they can go for. So yeah, obviously I can't give you any specifics, but it is absolutely possible. Absolutely. I'll now pour more tea. We're going very slowly today. I wonder why that is. I've got about one more half cup left. We have about 40 minutes to go. Let's go. Whew. How do I play the French Focke-Wulf 119 realistic? Same way you play the F8 in the American and German tree. I mean, it's a vehicle that's kind of tricky. I mean, you need to utilize your speed very, very well. It's standard Focke-Wulf stuff, really. I mean, that's a good passive brag at telling people you have the NC900, though. That's very, very smart. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the teams a little bit, but I mean, with how mixed ARB is right now, it's it's hard to kind of predict on that basis. Assuming you know how to fly the other Focke-Wulfs, I mean, it's basically identical. You need to maintain your speed, keep high, have a lot of energy in reserve. When that thing's low on energy, there's not a lot it can do. Although, because the roll rate is so effective, you can shake people off your 6 quite effectively, by pulling into the negative a lot. That's really good for that, the Focke-Wulf. You can easily pull into the negative. Yeah, there's not a lot of to say kind of quickly, I guess, in that sense. But yeah, it's basically the same as the other ones. You need to be a bit careful because maneuvering against a lot of aircraft is not going to be the way to go. But yeah, as long as you have a lot of speed in reserve, then there's lots you can do. Absolutely. How to train your reaction times? A lot of it is practice, really. You can sort of do things like go into the test drive and like flick shoot. I practice that a lot, especially with top tier and stabilizers. Flick shooting is really good to practice. I'm quite good at that now, actually. It doesn't sort of come into gameplay, excuse me, too much. But it's a good way to get your general kind of reactive skill up a lot. There's a good book that I read a long time ago, not a long time ago, probably a few years ago, called Zen and the Art of Archery. Really good book for sort of practice and dedication. Actually, this will get quite pretentious, actually. Screw it. A big hurdle in reaction times in general is segmenting the actions you're taking. So in the book, Zen and the Art of Archery, one thing they sort of considered is that there are stages when you're a sort of novice to shooting. Stage 1, you see your target, you pick up your bow, you pull it back, you aim, you fire. Those are different stages with different processes to think about. But in becoming a real master of the art, everything you do in pulling that bow back and hitting your target is one single motion and being in tune with yourself. And that's something I think bizarrely translates to War Thunder in that, you see your target, you adjust your gun, you adjust for range, and you fire. If you segment every one of those steps in that, you'll take time to make sure every one of those stages is appropriately checked in your head, you will stagger and you will waste time. If you can do all of that in one single fluid motion, you will cut your aim time in half. And if you can get to a stage where you can do that, you will really, really speed up every sort of reaction that you'll have in the game. So yeah, that's something that I would like to say definitely practice. It's a strange analogy, I guess, from like a kind of an art like that to the game, but it absolutely works. And I think that's that's a good thing to practice. Try and perform the motion as one single fluid um, motion. That's exactly what I would do. Hello, Hobo. Collusion, please no. This is not the future I want. Is playing tank assault still worth for stock vehicles? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you need to be at a good BR and with a good team, but you can get a couple of the beginner modules very quickly in assault. It's good as well that if you're not really, maybe you're not really quite focused, you're a bit tired, but you still want to play the game. Tank assault works really well for that. You can still like pop a movie on and stuff and play like that as well. So yeah, I think so. It's definitely worth it. Delicious. How to use HE shells properly? Only use high caliber ones, I think is the first step. Low tiers, low caliber HE is very, well, not really very useful. Anything above 120 is usually what to go for, but in some instances, like 100mm, 105, like on the 105 Sherman and the BMP3, those can work. But in general, you need to kind of be a bit more careful with anything below, and just use stuff that's higher tier, high caliber really. You're going to want to aim on the bottom of the turret or on the roof of tanks to really knock them out, because if you just aim center mass, it won't really do anything. So you're going to want to aim for the roof or the bottom of the turret. That way, it will send fragments down in through the weaker armor. The weaker armor, the top of the hull, top of the turret. That's really the way to go for HE. Bro, please answer the question. No. What was your question? Let's see. How long until PS4 players can buy the F5C? We answer this pretty much every stream, I think. It's not up to us. It's an issue on Sony's end, from what I understand. We want it to be available as soon as possible, but it's not the case right now. From what I understand, for 2 weeks after it comes out, you'll be able to get the pre-order bonus of the skin, and that's explained in the dev blog, or the initial dev blog, I think, or at least on a supplementary forum post about it. So, yeah, don't worry. When it's available, you can get it. What do you feel about top tier ground battles? Feels less and less like ground. Do you mean in the sense of there being so much air, like air cover? Because I mean, I can kind of see that. I mean, yeah, like air support's becoming a lot more prevalent. And I mean, it's combined battles, I guess, is the term. So playing on semantics, I guess it kind of still works in that sense. But yeah, I much prefer the lower tiers. I think in general for tanks, it feels more fun for me. Yeah, I enjoy it more. In that sense, yeah. I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, I certainly prefer the sort of lower tiers to have more of a sort of ground impact. But yeah, it does seem to be going that way, where there is more kind of happening, I guess, in terms of top tier in the air. What is that comment? I keep missing the comments I want to answer. They go too quickly. It'll be lost forever now, I think. Sad. Melancholy, almost. Do you like coffee? Yes, I do. I drink coffee a lot. It's very nice. I usually just sort of have it like medium strength with no sugar, tiny bit of milk. I mean, that's just how I like it. I don't really think. I mean, a lot of people like to gatekeep coffee, which is very funny and something I get a lot of proxy embarrassment over. But yeah, I like coffee. It's very nice to wake up to. Can be quite nice. Would you help me if I was stuck in the dryer? I guess, as long as you weren't in there in a sort of sinister capacity and were fully clothed. If not, then I probably wouldn't be able to assist, I'm afraid. What is this one? any advice you can give on missile carriers, such as the Sturm or Chrysanthema. They are among some of the most difficult vehicles to play in the entire game. Incredibly niche, incredibly weak, only works in some situations, which means that on some maps there's not really a lot that you can do, which is really, really tricky at times. So, yeah, generally you're going to want to stick at the longest range possible. I mean, in general, I find those vehicles are some of like the hardest. Well, they're the least versatile in the game. So by extension, they are some of the weakest vehicles by far. So there's not a lot you can do for them overall. And in that sense, you're really going to want to stick at long range behind hard cover and poke out only when you're going to fire. That's really the way that I would go with it. Because out of cover, they basically offer nothing. And the way I always think about it is if you're using them out of cover, you might as well be using any other vehicle in the game, effectively, because any other vehicle with a conventional cannon is basically just going to do the job better. It's the round's going to get to your enemy quicker. You can be more reactive, and there's way more going for it in that respect. But in the right situation, they can do work, and they work as vehicles quite well because they work in up tiers. Because the armor of those vehicles, apart from maybe the IT-1, is never going to be well armored, and playing it in up tiers will not change anything about how it plays. So they're good lineup vehicles in the sense that if the armor or the vehicles that you have that rely on armor don't work in the situation you're in, you can take out one of those ATGM carriers and use those instead. So if you can stick a long range, cover a wide sight line, like a very long range open sight line, they can work, and that's probably what I would go for ultimately. But they are very, very tricky to use and probably not very good, all things considered. Any more Chinese vehicles coming soon? Maybe. I have no idea. I can't really speak about anything coming new to the game on that front, I'm afraid. As much as I would like to. What else do we have here? How do I play the HE111 H6? Oh, tricky. It's a very weak vehicle, the HE111s. They're very rugged at the lower tiers, the H6 and the H3, but the H16, being at a higher BR, can get shredded quite quickly. You're going to want to skulk around the edges of the map with a vehicle like that, because if you fly straight right into the action, you're going to get intercepted very quickly, and you're too slow to escape from anything, and too poorly defended as well. So you're going to want to go around the edges of the map, use the clouds as well. Using cloud cover is really, really important. And that way you can probably get to your base before actually being intercepted. If you just fly straight in a slight climb, that thing is just so slow that you will be intercepted before you can get to your target, which is a big shame, really. So, yeah. Go to the sidelines, around the edges of the map, avoid the common flight paths, use clouds. That's probably what I would go for, just because, the vehicle in itself is pretty tricky. Oxy, I love you. Well, I love you too. All the same. That's very sweet. Thanks. Any planned building event for the summer? Maybe. Not sure. Maybe it'd be nice, but yeah, don't know. There's usually one around this time, so I mean, I wouldn't say it's not unlikely. Hopefully you couldn't hear that sip. I don't know how loud it is here. Let me see if it peaks on the master source. Kind of does. Apologies. Would it be nice? Are you mad? No. No one makes you play events. They're there if you have the time and want to. I mean, getting upset at them by proxy of not engaging with them is a strange way to be, I think. Do you still play Oxy? Yeah, pretty much every day. I play constantly. So yeah, absolutely. Still love the game very much. That's coffee, not tea. No, it is tea. It's just sort of I think it's the milk that we have in this one just makes it look darker than usual. There isn't really much milk in it, but it is absolutely tea. I can't really prove it, but it is. I could have easily made coffee, but no. Oh, Abigail, yeah, it's a tricky one for sure. Um, yeah, I think one of the harder vehicles to play in the game. It definitely has its niche in the right situation, but yeah, it's not the easiest. Um, not the easiest at all. Well done for nearly spailing it though. Well done. Um, Sip harder, daddy is not a sentence I want to read ever again. Um, um, can't read that one. Uh, what tea do you like the most? Probably Earl Grey. I really like. It just sort of hits the right spot for me. Um, yeah, probably my favorite. There's a bit of versatility with Earl Grey. I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of that. It's just nice, I think. Um, the frog spot. Potentially sinister undertones, but yes. Um, Lipton, yeah, we've got like a crate of Lipton iced tea like round the corner actually from the studio. So yeah, there's always iced tea available. Um, what is your own vehicle, Oxy? Oh, it's Challenger 2. It's my own personal vehicle in the game. Uh, I think you can find it if you look it up. There should be a picture actually. Um, yeah, that's my vehicle. Do you like crumpets? I think I do. I don't really have them that much. I don't use them super frequent. Well, no, oh, I don't use them frequently. What does that mean? You eat them. What else am I going to do with a crumpet to use it as like a tool? Why would I say that? No, I don't have them very much. I used to not like the sort of moistness of it. I mean, I didn't trust it. I thought it was going to be wet, and it's like, no, I like my food sort of, I guess, predictable. So crumpets were not really on the cards for me, but not too bad. Yeah, they're okay. I've had them a couple of times, and it's all right. Um, do I love fish and chips? I quite like fish and chips. It's a good thing to sort of have to completely fill me up if I haven't eaten for like a day and a half, and it's like, yeah, I'll have some fish and chips, and that kind of like brings me back up to my sort of general state of consciousness, which can be quite fun. I do miss that a bit. Um, can you help me with the silver lion grind without telling me not to die? I can do that, although it would probably not be as effective. Uh, Always what I say is buy a premium you like. A premium that's fun to play and has a good lineup if you're playing tanks. So low tier premium tank, low tier premium aircraft. Use those in tandem, and you will have a absolutely great time getting lines because you'll be playing something fun, playing something enjoyable, being able to progress through the tree, and you'll get lines passively. That's always what I go for. Playing a vehicle like that with a high modifier, um, definitely go for that. Uh, because that way, as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, you will get more lions passively, and that's, I think really the way to do it. Um, that's what I go for. If not, try and find a premium, or excuse me, a vehicle in the main tree with a high modifier that you enjoy. Play that a lot. Tank, plane, go for it. But as long as you enjoy what you're playing, you will earn more lions. I can pretty much promise you that. When are the three gladiators who defended Malta in World War II going to be in War Thunder? Gaijin would always advertise it. From what I remember, those planes never existed. It was a sort of propaganda story about how good the sort of defense was at the time. I don't believe they ever actually existed. Those three gladiators, um, which is a shame. But yeah, I don't believe they're real. Um, from what I understand. I may in a second take a very brief run down the hallway to the secret documents room. I won't tell you what the room is, but you're all very smart uh, people, so I'm sure you can ascertain the particulars of the nature of where I will be. I may be about. Let's see if we can guess. Okay, I will be gone for around 52 seconds from when I get off screen. Somebody time it. I really want to see how close I get. I will be back very shortly. Please don't go anywhere, or if you do go somewhere, uh, return quickly. Okay, I've already forgotten what time I gave myself, but let's go. I'm back. Hello. I'm not sure how long that took, but probably longer than what I said. I'm back now. Why do I look so disheveled? It's like I've run a marathon. Terrible. Um, yes, sorry, I forgot what I was doing. I'm here again now. Hello. I hope we're all having a nice day. I've already said that. And my brain broke when I left the room. Curious. Um, yes. Uh, that was some intense timing. Well done. Uh, yeah. I mean, well, I was in a good ratio. Probably I could have done better, but I tried. There was an attempt. Um, let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of timing going on. Nice one. Nice one, guys. Uh, okay, back to the regular scheduled broadcast. So I'm out here drinking a cup of War Thunder in the background. Yes. Can I do that? Does that work? No, it doesn't. That'd be nice though if I could sort of drink green. I could drink the game. Very nice. Yes. I like. No, I can't say that. That has connotations I can't follow up with. Um, a Darkened Spell. Yeah, if you watch, I think my British guide, the end. Uh, that challenge is in the thumbnail, and I mention it briefly, so you can see it there. Um, I guess maybe it isn't available if you search for it, but yeah, you can find it that way. I believe. Um, I see Doctor Robotnik, and I can only think about the like ancient YouTube poop voice. Man, those were simpler times. I love all that. That was a nice period. When come Turkey? This game? Probably not. I don't think Turkey really has a sort of ability to make a full tree. Maybe more like premium vehicles like the M60, but yeah, probably not. I would have thought. For Pride Month, could we see a rainbow flag cosmetic or decal in the game? Maybe. I don't know if that's the plan, actually. It could be quite sweet, I suppose. Um, yeah, maybe. Maybe suggest it on the forum or something. I have no idea. If it's sort of something that is planned at all. Where's my hair doing this? It's sort of bunched up. I ran for a bit down the hallway and then my hair sort of reset itself. It has a habit of doing that. And my voice gave up at the end. No, let Bruce do that. He has a much nicer kind of way of articulating those videos. It wouldn't be the same without him. As much as it would be sort of fun to do them, I guess. You know, I'd much prefer he stays doing that. Yeah, Blackbone Rock is yeah. I've sold a couple of artworks with that plane on it in the past. Yeah, pretty plain. Probably not the most usable in terms of what it could actually do, but yeah, I'd like that. I'd like to see more early British vehicles in the game. You look like a 6th century general. What is that? Belisarius in the Ravenna mosaic. I'm gonna look that up. Hopefully it's not weird, but chat, stop scrolling. I'll look this up. Hopefully it's not every time I look something up on the stream, it's always horrible. I can't really see it, I'll be honest. I mean, maybe my hair is a tiny bit similar, but no, I can't really see that. That's a very specific thing to know about, though, so, you know, hats off on that front. We will all die eventually. Yeah. Yep, we will. But that's somewhat okay, I think. It was similar before you ruined it. Yeah, if I sort of bunch up the sides and like stop looking like an AI generated a singer, like a British singer from 2005, then I could maybe look like that. Yeah, I got told that like from a distance I look like 20 different like indie band musicians from like the noughties, which I can kind of see, except I'm not in an indie band, so I'm not really even remotely as interesting. Yep. No, Bruce is immortal, as he should be. Very, very nice guy, Bruce. I've chatted to Bruce a couple of times. I help write the update script sometimes that he reads from, so we have had some little chats before. He's a really, really nice guy. He's one of the most intensely wholesome human beings in the entire world. Howdy, partner. Howdy, John Smooth. That's a very funny name. The name Smooth, I think, as a surname is just really funny to me. Like, over the weekend, I thought of the name Keith Pocket, and that to me was just so intensely adorable. I wanted to change my name to Keith Pocket, but I probably wouldn't do that. Probably the most stupid thing to mention on a War Thunder stream, but nevertheless, it happened. Will old event vehicles get available again? If not, isn't that a waste of vehicles no one will use? Well, I mean, in terms of games like this, there's always things that are exclusive for the sake of being exclusive. So some of them maybe, some never will come back again. There are some vehicles that are sort of locked forever. But a lot of them probably will sort of appear at some point, I would say. But yeah, it's not likely to see all of them. Yeah, Keith Pocket. Like, I don't know. I always like making up names that sound like half plausible. But yeah, Keith Pocket's quite sweet. I like that. I'll probably inject that into some sort of something I've written at some point. Will Enlisted ever come to Mac? I honestly don't know. You'd be better off asking the devs on the Discord or the community liaisons on the Discord or the Reddit. I'm genuinely not sure. Maybe. I wouldn't be able to give you a good answer on that one, I'm afraid. But potentially. Who is this? Something to consider for later. What is your favorite World War II British tank to play? You don't need to pretend that you're asking for someone else. Probably the Churchill Mark III, I think, is probably my favorite. Not the best now. I think it was much better at 4.0, but I love it. It's really decently effective armor, really good gun, really workable. Like I love that thing. I used to have like a 10 to 1 KD in it, I think, before I got up to it. But yeah, really great vehicle. I love the Churchill Mark III. I imagine it's probably not the best kind of vehicle in the world for everyone, but I really like it. Um, do you think the Black Prince is overtiered? Not necessarily. I think at 6.0 it works fine. Any lower and it will start meeting vehicles that would be unfair to fight against. Like there will be some vehicles that could not even scratch it frontally, which is I don't really think is that great. Um, the difficulty I think is when it's up tiered. At 6.0, perfectly fine. At 6.7, 7.0, not quite as good. I think it could be at a lower BR, but at the same time, I think it's okay. And it's actually, because I looked into this with our sort of statistics, it's actually performing much better than it seems on the surface, which is quite surprising actually. So it's not actually performing badly at all. I think it's one of those vehicles that seems like it should be lower, but it doesn't need to be. But it's difficult. I think it could be lower and not break the game. But right now it is technically, you know, in a decent place. But as a heavy, it's difficult to balance in that sense. What do you love about War Thunder? The variety and the sort of the way that the vehicles are kind of true to life and look exactly the same as the real ones and being able to upgrade them, get camos and stuff. I like that. I love the variance of like taking a thing that existed, learning how to use it, using it well, and just having a good time with it. I really like that. I love being able to just take a tool and learning how it works and be able to sort of utilize it better. I really like that. I think ultimately War Thunder is just a great way to kind of, well, a great environment to facilitate that kind of, I guess, concept of like combat, and I really like that. Yeah, I love unlocking stuff, spading stuff, getting camos. It's got such a good feedback loop for a game, and I love it. I've always loved it, and I probably already will, or always will, rather. Um, please be our bunny girl. I'm not finishing that sentence. I think I would. The amount of bullying I receive already, well, not really bullying, I suppose, just sort of, can you imagine the sort of cesspool of, uh, misery that I would be in if I put on bunny ears? Can you imagine? I can imagine, and I don't want to imagine it any longer. Spooky. Um, my man Rota being my literally only subscriber on Twitch. Thanks, King. What account am I on? I think I can put some of your in there. I'll put Nala there. There we go. You can have a Nala. Bless her. Squire thinks about World of Tanks is just kids' pretend tank game. I think I know the words that you're trying to say. Yeah, I've always thought that if you stripped away the skin of World of Tanks, not in a sinister way, that does sound a bit ominous, but in the sense of removing the World War II tank thematics from the game, and if you did the same for War Thunder and you retextured it with like new maps, new environments, and you said that the vehicles were like, excuse me, like fantasy vehicles or space vehicles or whatever, you'd rarely see people comparing those two games at all because they are so dissimilar in how they function. And the only sort of, I guess, similarity they have is that they share a skin of like, the thematics of being about tanks. So yeah, I mean, they are so different to the point where comparing them isn't even honest. I would even say they are just so different. Yeah. Can we get a horny jail emote command? That would be nice. I'd like that. Although it would probably just be a flood of that constantly and never stop. Can I throw away wages? I don't think so. Maybe that's something to suggest, though. I mean, turning them into war bonds or like lions or something. Maybe. I don't think you can actively get rid of them. But yeah, give it a suggestion. Definitely. I still haven't got clearance to raid World of Tanks. Are they streaming now? I don't know if their official channel streams. Let's look it up. You won't be able to hear audio, so I can safely do this. World of Tanks. Oh, they are live right now. What are they doing? Prepare for trouble and make it double. Man, who is this person streaming? He looks like one of the. I can't say that. That'd be really unkind. Is this like a developer or just like a? Is this guy like an analog to what I am? Just the kind of guy. Just the dude. I don't know. Guy seems cool. We'll definitely raid at some point. I will ask now. I think if I can do it. Actually, I can't. No one's available to sort of double check for me. No, sad, sad. At some point, my adversary. Maybe we could swap one day, and I'll play World of Tanks, and this guy can play War Thunder. That could be quite fun. Yeah, maybe we can sort of have like the Christmas truce and play some football, and don't know, eat chocolate together or something. That could be nice, potentially. Um, World of Tanks is where people learn to angle. I guess so. Yeah, I mean it factors a lot into gameplay, so yeah, I can see that potentially. Sad, very sad. Yes, yes, yes. Your hair is poggers. Thanks. I don't really know how to respond to those particular words, but that's quite sweet, I think. Thank you. A lot of people will disagree, but we'll see. What's your World of Tanks user? I don't know. I think I've got about 3 World of Tanks accounts. I'm not sure which one I've used the most. I haven't played it very much, but yeah, it was okay. I could never get like super into it, but I did still quite enjoy it for what it was. For what it was. This is the first time chat has ever been positive about my hair at all, so this has been really nice. Thank you, chat. Usually it's sort of like a flurry of the same comment over and over again. But yeah, my hair's just sort of annoying. It just does what it wants. I don't know. I do that, whatever, and my hair just stays this way. It's so thick. It just sort of does what it wants. It's going so grey as well. You can see all the greys coming through. Terrible. Terrible. Um, indeed. I don't know. I think it's one of those things that I don't think anyone would be that like bothered if I did it. But if I don't tell people in advance, I think it might not go that great, but we'll see. We'll see. What do you use for your hair? It's like I use a sort of Moroccan oil shampoo, which is quite good. That's good for hair strength, and I use quite a good conditioner as well that strengthens the ends because my hair is very thick and very very uh I guess my hair's thick in the way that my like the strands of my hair are thicker than most people's hair, so it's actually really hard to like snap it. So I need to make sure the ends are sort of okay. So conditioner go well. I wash it almost every day, so it's always in sort of good structural integrity, but it just never looks that great. But meh. My hair being unkempt holds a particular power over people, which is quite fun. Hair chat with Oxy, yes, perhaps. What a disaster. Man bun, Christ. No. I would look awful. I would look more awful than I already do. Terrible. Frog talk. Mate. Maybe. Maybe we will have a sort of know. That could be fun. A sort of an off kilter stream where it's just talking about absolute nonsense. That could be brilliant. Right, actually, I will quickly ask if I have permission to raid World of Tanks. I don't know if anyone available would be able to sort of answer it for me. Actually, I can do it on here, but that could be quite fun. Bear with me. That could be quite fun. I don't know how to raid people though. I've never raided anyone. Maybe Mike can do it remotely. I don't know how it works. Um. Oh no, I don't want to get the frog hat on. Not Frog Army Assemble. Why has this happened? It was literally such a tiny incidental conversation that the frog thing happened from. And now it's don't know, it's like half of my own personality, which is a disaster. Terrible. Absolute disaster. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe. If I can get the okay to do it, I'll do it. But if not, then I won't. Because I mean, I don't want to sort of create any particular issues. I think okay. I think I will leave it this time. I'll do it next Monday, and then we will see. Um. Okay. Interesting comment there. Um. See, the chat has derailed to the point there's not even any War Thunder questions anymore. It's just nonsense. Um. Feel free to send any more before the stream ends. There's not really like I guess a sort of stream schedule right now. I mean, I do this on Monday for 2 hours. Then Mike and I stream on Thursday for War Thunder as well, and then we do Enlisted on Friday too, which is all we have right now. Have you ever watched Chernobyl? Yeah. Actually, I used to live like a few doors away from one of the actors on that, the guy that plays Dyatlov. Yeah, he was a really nice guy. He died recently, actually, about a month ago, which is a shame. I used to get my hair cut after him sometimes. Really, really nice guy. Yeah, Chernobyl's a really good show. Indeed. Frog pin-up decal. I'm not sure about that. Potentially, but not likely. Are you happy? Always. Hispano damage, like 5 years old topic, but still. I can't really agree that it's that bad anymore. I mean, I don't know if it's that I just sort of got used to aiming them, but I don't really have much trouble with Hispanos anymore. Definitely used to. They were in a absolutely dreadful place, but right now I can't really see them. I don't think they're as bad as they were. They probably could be improved. I don't know, but for what they are, they're not that bad. I don't seem to struggle as much with them as I used to, so maybe they are a bit improved. I'm not sure. They do okay. Oh, thanks, Abigail. Yeah. Yeah, it was quite fun to be on E3 for a bit. Yeah, enjoyable time. When AP is the best shell, it's kind of odd. Well, AP is great for aircraft. It causes way more structural damage to the internals, and I mean, on that basis, you can rip wings off way easier. So the AP rounds are always pretty effective. I mean, for weaker aircraft, HE is great, but for the tougher stuff, I mean, AP does way better. Like way better for bombers in general. I think like APIT, AP. Um, I always sort of use that in general, especially for the Russian guns as well, going after tougher stuff. So yeah, AP's really strong round, and I mean it's there's nothing objective to say that HE should be objectively constantly better than AP. They're just rounds that do different things. I think a lot of people think that HE is just should be, I guess, like should be the better round, but it's not always the case. Yeah, they both have their uses, but a mixed belt of like universal, I think, still works quite well. Or stealth. Stealth is probably my favorite for British Hispanos. Pretty good. Pretty good. AP gang, yes, indeed, absolutely. So that's MG151. Yeah, well, I mean, it's sort of disingenuous to compare the two with just how much filler is in the MG151 rounds. We're mostly just talking about the Hispano, the British 20mm Hispano belts here. I mean, for the German guns, it's an entirely different story, but yeah, they work way better with the filler in those rounds. Very, very good. Is Wirbelwind better or Ostwind? Depends. I mean, The Wirbelwind, I think, is easier to use, but has less potential. That's how I've always really described them. The Ostwind, if you have the lead, it can work way better because you can fire indefinitely. The Wirbelwind, having its reload and having slightly less range, does sort of limit it a tiny bit. They both work very, very well. And I think the Wirbelwind is sort of more effective in that it's easier to get, I guess, easy kills with it. But if you can master the Ostwind, you can do way better. Um, yeah, I think Wirbelwind's probably the best way to go if you're sort of newer to anti-airs. But the Ostwind can still work very, very well. They're both good. They sort of they do different. They do the same job in different ways. So there's a bit of a duality there, I suppose. I suppose. Um, how's your day going? Yeah, it's going okay. 4:30 now, so in about an hour and a half left to go. Got a lot more translations to do today, so hopefully that'll be enjoyable. Speaking of, I probably will vacate soon as we have had our 2 hour little window of conversation, I suppose. As usual, sort of went off the deep end at the end there, as it usually does, but I mean, it's been fun. We will wind down now, I suppose, as I finish the final dregs of tea. Notice my question, Oxy. What was your question? I think I missed it. The chat scrolls so fast, I sort of miss it sometimes. I can't see it right now, I'm afraid. Spam it if you like. Well, not spam, but repeat it. I'll see if I can find it. It is night in my country. Cool. It is not night here, but it will soon be, in like 6 hours because summer's strange. Yeah. Thanks, chat, for the frog spam. I agree. Absolutely. What Russian SPA to use before 8.0? BTR or the 94 km gas. The ZIS 37 and the ZIS 42 are pretty bad against air. Some of the worst, I think, in terms of anti-air in general. Avoid those two for pure anti-air gameplay. I would go for the BTR or the 94 km gas with the twin 25mm guns. Probably the latter, as it's more mobile and more versatile. That's what I would go with. And it's, that thing works great for, rushing cap points. It can knock out lightly armored vehicles and really usable against aircraft as well. So I'd probably go for that, I would say. Ayo, WTF, hot garbage. That me. It is real trash mammal hours. Who up? Me. Do you think the GA-N1 is worth a Japanese bomber grind? Well, it depends. I mean, I think these questions are always incredibly difficult to answer on a sort of middle ground grey area because do you want to play the vehicle to, like, for that to be your goal, like the end goal of your progression through the trees to play that? Or is it more so like going up the line to play it and then move on to other stuff? Because I guess it depends on exactly what you want. It's tricky to answer. Those kind of questions, I think. It's pretty fun though. You can absolutely use it to dogfight fighters if you're confident, and it can be quite fun for that. As an actual bomber, like against ground targets, it's not the best, but you can definitely make it work as a sort of gunship, which can be quite fun. I like it for that. It's got some good camos too. Very, very nice. Trash mammal hours. What was that? Explain your damn self. No. I am a trash mammal, and that is how it will be. I did a little peace sign, but you couldn't see it. Here it is. Tiny peace sign. Do you like the Chieftain Mark III? Yep. Yeah, really good vehicle. Mark V as well, even at 8.7, is fantastic machine. Great armor in the good spots, great gun, versatile. It does what it needs to do. I like it a lot. Out of its element, it struggles a bit, but if you can find a good spot, the Chieftains can work really, really well. Then that was one of the first things I talismaned in the British tree. Very Very, very good machine. I'm a fan. Halifax can outturn 109s. Yeah, bombers. A lot of bombers can outturn fighters. The Year 2s can outturn a lot of fighters. Halifax is a great gunship like that. Playing bombers as sort of pseudo gunships is super underrated. Can be really, really fun. Yeah, so that's what I do for bombers, really. If you're being sort of attacked, I guess, from like fighters, dogfight, turn, bleed the enemy of your speed, then use the gunners, because if you turn in your bomber, you can bleed so much from the enemy, and it can be really fun. No, I am looking at YouTube chat and Twitch chat. It just is. I think it's probably the case that YouTube spams a lot of the same questions over and over again, and there's lots of different individual questions. So, well, on Twitch rather, and so by I guess extension, I'm answering more of the comments on Twitch than YouTube because I have to leave more of the YouTube ones because there's more of them. But I am reading both. I can absolutely assure you of that. I will vacate soon though after I finished my cup of cha. Cup of cha. Is armor degradation going to be added? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that would affect gameplay in a positive way overall. I think it probably would if it was implemented. I guess it would depend. It would depend actually in many ways on how that would work. If it was implemented, I guess. I'm trying to very quickly imagine how it would work in my head, and I can't really yeah, I can't really ascertain exactly how it would work. It's a really interesting idea, but I don't know if it would exactly be, I guess, universally workable in the sense of making a kind of good, um, sort of, I guess, gameplay feel. I guess it would make some rounds more powerful though, which is good. I mean, it would give low caliber HE like a purpose to actually exist in the game, which it doesn't right now. It's like it's a round that's almost useless. So I like it for that because it would mean those rounds actually have a like a purpose in the game, which would be pretty good. As a there's very little use to them right now. So on that basis, it could be an interesting idea. But yeah, it would need a lot of sort of visual feedback on how the system worked, and that would be tricky. So yeah, I'm not sure. Interesting idea, but I'm not sure how it would work overall. Not sure. Right. I've got a few more questions in me, but then I really need to chug some water and sleep for a bit, maybe. New Abrams? Maybe soon. No idea. I can't really give you any sort of meaningful responses to new content, I'm afraid, as much as I would like to. Is the grenade launcher on the Huey a useful weapon in Ground RB? If you are in the perfect situation, it can be great. But generally speaking, it's not universally usable. Bad against aircraft, very, very bad against aircraft. You need to be right over the enemy to use it effectively. So if you can sneak into the map and actually get into a position to use it, it can be really good. But it's it's one of those things that like I guess 1 out of 5 times it works incredibly well, and 4 out of 5 times it's useless. So it's kind of rolling that dice, I guess. I'd probably stick to more versatile ordnance overall, but it can work. It would be dishonest to say that it can never work. Um, but yeah, can kind of work sometimes. Your teacup is green screened. I am intensely aware of that, but thank you for pointing it out. It's actually bright yellow, even though the screen behind is completely green, which is quite funny. How to play the ISU 122S? Stick at range, don't go too close, and angle towards the sloping on the, if you're facing it on the left side. Because at the front, the armor is, you have a kind of flat side and then a slightly angled side. You need to angle slightly with that side towards the enemy, because if you angle slightly and reverse away, that armor can be immensely effective. I've had so many double ace games using that thing by baiting shots with that angled part of the armor, and it can be so effective. I really, really, really recommend doing that. So yeah, definitely give that a go. Yeah, but yeah, stick at range, use the B round, the capped round, and yeah, when you need to maneuver, kick in the reverse and use that reverse inertia to swing the hull around, because that way you'll gain more momentum and you can turn quicker. And it also helps to angle that slightly angled part of the armor towards the enemy, because it can bounce long 88s if you're lucky. Stick at range to that though, because at close range it can't really quite work to the same degree. But yeah, that's what I'd go for. It's one of my favorite vehicles in the entire game. It's a massive underdog, I guess, but it's really nice. I love vehicles like that. It does a really good job. Man, I'm so excited to play Minute of Islands tonight. That came out last night. I'm gonna finish the entire game in a whole day. It's really good. If you're interested, it's a more sort of, I guess, exploration and story driven game. It's like Adventure Time meets Nausicaa, and that to me is like very cool. So I'm interested in trying that out later on. Give it a go. I spoke to the developers a bit last night because the Enlisted showcase that I was on E3 happened like a few minutes before their showcase. So we chatted a bit about that, which is quite fun. Yeah, give it a go if you like those kind of games. I recommend that. Okay, one more question. One more singular question. Hopefully a short one. Otherwise, I'll be here for a very long time. What do you think of the B-26? Gorgeous plane, lots of history. As much as I would love to see it in the game, and I think it probably will come eventually, it's one of those vehicles that doesn't really need to be added. I'd love to see it in the game. I love the vehicle, but I don't think it's necessary in terms of filling a gap in the tree. We have the B-34 and the Mitchell, which basically does everything the Marauder can, but I mean, in some instances better, some instances worse. It'll be great to see it, but I don't think it's a priority because for all intents and purposes, the role that the Marauder fills in the game is already filled by at least 2 other aircraft in the tree. So, yeah, it's tricky. I'd love to see it because it's one of my favorite aircraft, gorgeous plane, but I don't know if it's a priority because I think there are other areas of the game that need vehicles to fill gaps other than the Marauder right now. But I do think it will come eventually, I would guess. I would guess anyway. So, I inhaled the bits at the bottom of that. That wasn't very nice. Ooh. Okay. Well, that was a fun, brief interlude on a sort of quiet, lazy Monday. I hope you've all had a nice time. Yeah, I guess, sorry if this isn't sort of the most intensive, like, 2-hour period of your life. I guess it's meant to be a bit more quiet. So a lot of people, I guess, want to see some gameplay in the background, but it's not really what these are about. I guess it's meant to be sort of a quiet, brief kind of break from your day, I guess. Which so hopefully that's been okay today. We've had some goofs, had some laughs, and hopefully I've managed to help a couple of you with some stuff. Apologies, I can't get around to all of your comments. The chats go so quickly, and it's hard to kind of keep an eye on absolutely everything. But I will, always try to sort of keep up with everything. I mean, come back next time, spam your question at me. I will eventually get around to it. So yeah, thank you all for being here. It's been very, very, very nice. I hope you all have a lovely week. Mike and I will see you on Thursday and Friday as well for Enlisted. And yeah, I hope you all have a very, very nice day. Night, evening. Time is a crazy thing. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Have a nice moment in time today. And I will go now because I'm very bad at saying goodbye in every instance. So yeah, thanks everyone for being here. And I will see you all soon. Bye. I now need to awkwardly look over here to find the button to press to go to the outro.